I used to love Christmas nights, especially the silence that came after midnight, when the streets were empty, the snow softened every sound, and the world felt like it had finally gone to sleep. It was the only time of year when my apartment felt warm without being loud, peaceful without being lonely, and alive without anyone else around. I live alone now, but I still keep the same traditions I had as a child. I decorate the tree on December 1st, even if no one is coming over. I hang the lights carefully, testing each strand twice, and I always place the old radio on the windowsill, the one my father used to play Christmas carols on late at night when he couldn't sleep. That radio hasn't worked properly in years. The volume knob is loose, the signal drifts, and sometimes it turns itself off without warning. Still, I keep it plugged in every December, more out of habit than hope. On Christmas Eve this year, it turned on by itself. It was just after midnight, when the last lights in the neighboring buildings had gone dark and the snowfall outside had grown thick and slow, like the sky was carefully lowering each flake by hand. I was sitting on the couch, half asleep, staring at the soft glow of the tree, when I heard music coming from the window. At first, I smiled. It was a carol I recognized, one my father used to hum while adjusting the lights, but something about it felt off. The melody was slower than it should have been, stretched unnaturally, as if whoever was playing it didn't quite remember how it was supposed to go. I stood up and walked closer to the radio, expecting the sound to fade or crackle the way it usually did. Instead, it grew clearer, sharper, almost too close, like the singer was standing just outside the glass. That was when I realized there were no lyrics. It was only humming. Low, careful, patient. I turned the radio off, feeling slightly embarrassed by the chill crawling on my spine, and told myself it was just interference, maybe a nearby station picking up some late-night broadcast. The apartment fell silent again, and for a few minutes, everything felt normal. Then I heard footsteps in the snow outside. Slow ones, measured. I looked out the window, expecting to see a passerby, or maybe a neighbor returning home late, but the street was empty. The snow was smooth and untouched, except for a single set of footprints leading directly to my building. They stopped right beneath my window. I stepped back, suddenly aware of how quiet my apartment had become, how loud my own breathing sounded in my ears. When the radio turned on again, I almost jumped. This time, the humming was louder, closer, and somehow familiar. I recognized the rhythm, the slight pauses between notes, the way the tune wavered at the same points every time. My father used to hum like that when he was thinking, when he was trying to remember something important, but didn't quite want to say it out loud. My hands were shaking as I reached for the radio again, but before I could touch it, the humming stopped. A voice replaced it. Soft, tired, calm. "Merry Christmas," it said. I froze. The voice sounded exactly like my father's. He had passed away 3 years ago, just before Christmas, and I hadn't heard his voice since the last voicemail I still couldn't bring myself to delete. Hearing it now, so clear and gentle, felt like having the air knocked out of my lungs. I whispered his name without thinking. The radio crackled softly, as if responding, and the voice spoke again, slower this time, like it was choosing its words carefully. "You left the lights on too long," it said. "They're not supposed to stay on after midnight." I backed away from the window, my heart pounding, my mind racing through every rational explanation I could think of. A recording, a prank, someone nearby with a similar voice. Anything that would make this make sense. Outside, the footprints in the snow began to change. They deepened, as if someone was shifting their weight. Standing there, waiting. "I didn't want to wake you." The voice continued, still calm, still warm. "But you never listen when I knock." There was a soft tapping sound against the glass. 3 gentle taps, exactly the way my father used to knock on my bedroom door when I was a child. I shook my head, tears blurring my vision, and told myself not to answer, not to open the window, not to say another word. Whatever this was, it wasn't him. It couldn't be. The radio hummed again, returning briefly to the carol, and for a moment, I felt something dangerously close to comfort. The tree lights flickered, casting long shadows across the walls, and the apartment smelled faintly of pine and cold air. "You shouldn't be alone on Christmas," the voice said quietly. It's not safe. The footprints outside began to move. Slowly, deliberately. They circled beneath the window, pacing back and forth, leaving deep impressions in the snow, as if whatever was down there was growing restless. I grabbed my phone, my fingers numb, and checked the time. 12:17 a.m. The humming stopped. The voice changed. It sounded strained now. Wrong. You were always afraid of the dark, it said. That's why I stay close. The tapping on the glass grew louder, more urgent, and I could see something shifting in the reflection of the window, a shape just beyond the light, tall and thin, standing too close to the building. I forced myself to speak. If you're really my father, I said, my voice barely steady, then you know what song you used to sing to me. There was a long pause. The radio hissed softly. Then the humming returned. But it wasn't a carol anymore. It was the melody from a lullaby my father had only ever sung once, the night before he died, when he stood in my doorway and watched me sleep, thinking I couldn't hear him. My blood ran cold, because I had never told anyone about that. The lights went out, not just the tree, everything. The apartment was plunged into darkness, broken only by the faint glow of snow reflecting off the street below. The radio continued to play, louder now, the humming echoing through the room, wrapping around me, filling every corner. I backed away until I felt the wall behind me. Outside, the footprints stopped moving. The tapping ceased. The voice whispered one final time. Let me in. It's Christmas. I don't remember closing my eyes, but when I opened them again, the lights were back on. The radio was silent, and the street below was empty, the snow smooth and untouched, as if nothing had ever been there. It's morning now. The tree lights are still glowing. The radio is off, but my phone is playing a voicemail I don't remember opening. It's dated tonight, and my father's voice is humming softly, right before he whispers, I'm already inside.